afternoon, and thank you very much for being here today. I am Dr. Patty Prillo, and I have the joy of serving as the Vice President for Student Affairs here at the university. And it is truly my honor to serve as the host for this Veterans Day service, because veteran student life is a part of the work of the Division of Student Affairs and certainly a part of the university. At this time, I request that you stand as you are able for the presentation of the colors by the Army Color Guard. And please remain standing for the singing of America the Beautiful by the student musical organization Manor Music. Thank you. Please continue standing as we warmly welcome students from the College Park Academy. Kindly join them in the Pledge of Allegiance. Students, please begin. Thank you, students, for leading us in our nation's pledge. Will the color guard post the colors, please? Thank you to the Color Guard, College Park Academy students, and to Manor Music. We are grateful for you. Students, please return to your seats. And for all others, please be seated for the invocation. This reflection will be offered by Senior Omar Tafik from the Muslim Students Association. Omar?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. In translation, in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, the overseer of our prayers, may his peace and blessings be upon his prophets, messengers, and all those who follow in his blessed path, and everyone here present today. Distinguished guests and respected audience, my name is Omar Tawfiq, and I am truly grateful to be here representing and on the behalf of our Muslim community here on campus. Today we gather to commemorate the brave men and women who have sacrificed so much in service of our great nation. We show our highest gratitude to them for their courageous acts that ensure the safety and liberty that defines us as Americans. Today we gather to remember and reflect on the enormous sacrifices that the University of Maryland veterans are making and have made on the behalf of this country. May all the officers and enlisted women and men of our Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Coast Guard be blessed and protected as they carry out the responsibilities of their calling. We welcome those who have returned home, bringing their gifts into the life of our communities. We are grateful for the families and loved ones whose lives are intertwined with those who serve. May times of separation and loneliness be short for all of them, and may their homecoming be joyful. May all of those whom we pray be healed, sustained, and strengthened, and may we stay mindful of their commitment and sacrifices to our nation. As our veterans continue to fight on the front lines for all of us, it is important and crucial that we draw inspiration from them and follow their example by serving in our own capacity. Whether it be removing something harmful from the road or helping an elderly neighbor, our own faiths call us to be productive members of society, as our dear Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and all the messengers of God taught us. In a world so torn by pain, grief, and hatred, it is important that we act by joining and holding hands to engage in selfless acts of service as demonstrated by the men and women in uniform. Perhaps we can never serve in the same way that our veterans have. However, we can try by practicing kindness, and caring for one another in our everyday lives. Dear veterans, you represent the pinnacle of what it means to dedicate a life to public service. Today and every other day, we honor and show complete appreciation to you and everyone who continues to fight for the great values that this country was founded upon. Their hard work and dedication serve as a shining example of how we all can also take part of our own and do what it takes to benefit our own communities. Whether it be small or large, every effort counts. As President Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. May God bless everyone here in attendance. May God bless all of our veterans, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Amar, thank you for that heartfelt, meaningful invocation. We will now listen to a video message from our university president, Dr. Darrell J. Pines. Dr. Pines regrets that he cannot join us in person today because he is away from campus on university business. Throughout his career at UMD, first as a professor and then as the dean in the School of Engineering, Dr. Pines has advocated for and mentored student veterans making their way through the university onto their careers and related to their studies. And now, as university president, President Pine continues to champion the valuable contributions of our veterans across campus and of the campus units that serve our veterans.
Hello, everyone. I am honored to speak with you today to express our gratitude to our community of veterans and current military members here at the University of Maryland. There is a collective pride to have veterans on our campus, along with those currently serving in the military. We have thousands of Maryland alumni from different branches of the armed forces located all around the world. It is an honor to find ways to give back through dynamic student organizations like TERP Vets and units like Veteran Student Life at the Stamped Student Union. We gather today at the Memorial Chapel that was built in 1952 and dedicated to those University of Maryland men and women who gave their lives in service of their country. For 70 years, services and programs honoring veterans have taken place at the chapel. We are here to recognize the dedication you have given and continue to give on behalf of our country. To all of the Maryland veterans, thank you for your service.
As Dr. Pines indicated, today we are celebrating the University of Maryland veteran community. We extend our gratitude to the UMD veterans who have returned from service and active duty military serving at the present time. We remember dedicated and courageous University of Maryland veterans who have passed away, some of them in the line of duty. The University of Maryland is well known today for its support of veterans. In a U.S. News and World Report education report, UMD is ranked 27th in the 2022-2023 list of best colleges for veterans and the top-ranked college in Maryland for veterans. Let us acknowledge that with a round of applause. We do value our veterans, and we will continue to do so. Ever since its beginning 70 years ago, this Memorial Chapel has served as a place where veteran achievements have been recognized. Today's event marks the 15th annual University Celebration of Veterans, with many programs that are taking place throughout this month to bring together veterans and to raise campus awareness of the veterans and their contributions. Our service this afternoon consists of honoring and remembering veterans. To start us off in a celebratory fashion, As a way to honor our veterans, members of the Mighty Sound of Maryland will come to the stage to play an Armed Services Medley. I ask all veterans and current military to stand and be recognized when their branch's theme is played. Family and friends are also encouraged to honor the veterans in their lives by standing during the appropriate song. Thank you, Mighty Sound of Maryland. We appreciate your being here today to offer such an enthusiastic salute to our veterans and their families. Such an amazing performance to honor our veterans. Whew, that was beautiful. We will continue honoring the veteran service experience through the personal reflections of two members of our Maryland veteran community. I am delighted to introduce our first speaker, Joseph Hartner, who's representing veterans who are UMD students. Joseph served 4 years of active duty with the United States 5th Marine Regiment from 2016 to 2020. Working as a regimental radio operator, he was deployed overseas in support of Operation Inherent Resolve, as well as Operation Enduring Freedom. Currently, Joseph volunteers for Mission 22, a nonprofit organization that raises money for veteran suicide prevention and other resiliency programs for vets. He is a senior majoring in information science, and he represents the University of Maryland as a 2022-2023 Mid-Atlantic Civic Fellow. And anyone that gets an opportunity to spend time with him, as Dr. Marcia Ginsland refers to him as Joey, they know he is a joy and an honor to know and to work with. And he is an honorable and integral human being. Joey.
Thank you very much for the kind words. Hello, before we begin, I wanted to personally thank all of you for joining here with us today, as well as the ones that are joining us virtually here today. My name is Joseph Hartner. I'm a senior undergraduate student here at the University of Maryland College Park. As you heard, I have served 4 years as an active duty radio operator attached to the Fighting 5th Marine Regiment located in Camp Pendleton, California, Semper Fi. I have also had the opportunity to serve on a 9-month deployment overseas in support of Operation Inherent Resolve and Operation Enduring Freedom. Here on campus, I serve other veteran students as a Veterans Affairs work study, and I also serve them as their vice president and treasurer for our student organization, TERPvets. I also represent the University of Maryland campus as the UMD Mid-Atlantic Civic Fellow. This fellowship focuses on any diversity and inclusion issues found within lower-class citizens in urban rural communities surrounding major cities. Lastly, I volunteer as a Mission 22 ambassador. Mission 22 is a nonprofit organization that raises money for struggling veterans and their families. They provide recovery and resiliency programs to help guide veterans and their families out of any crises that are needed. So now, as we continue with the speech, let us pause for a moment of silence to reflect on the veterans who are not here today. For a hero truly never dies until their last time their name is spoken. Continue to honor them, and they will live on forever. Corey Schaefer. "94 years ago, today, a temporary ceasefire came into effect between the Allied nations and Germany. This ceasefire was called on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. 1 year later, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first Armistice Day. Since then, us as Americans have celebrated this as a national holiday. Everyone here knows it as Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a day for us to focus and celebrate in the service of all U.S. military veterans. But for me personally, this is an opportunity to reflect on the ones that unfortunately couldn't be here today. Around 3 years ago, very shortly after Veterans Day, I had lost a loved one to suicide. This loss hit me different as he was both my cousin and a proud sailor of the U.S. Navy. Because of this act could have been 100% prevented, I decided I needed to make a change. I first started a 22-day journey where I completed 22 push-ups in a row each morning and posted it on my social media. To my surprise, this challenge blew up and inspires others to join in the challenge and to make donations to Mission 22. By the end of the challenge, I raised over $1,500 for the organization, and after seeing the ability for me to donate $1,500, I wanted to donate some more. So I decided I wanted to become an event ambassador for Mission 22, where to date I've already organized 3 successful 2.2-mile hikes and walks around the University of Maryland campus to spread awareness of veteran suicide and prevention. It may surprise you all out there that there are hundreds, if not thousands of veterans right now that are struggling and need your guys' help. According to the Veterans Affairs, in 2021 alone, there were over 600 suicide cases reported across the veteran community. If you take this number, it averages about 2 deaths per day, which all are 100% preventable. Now, I'm going to ask for some help from you guys. I'm going to issue you guys some homework, And so I want you guys to look to the left and to the right of you, get used to the neighbors that are all around you. And after this, I want you to take some time and introduce yourselves. Ask them how they are. I want you to ask how their day went, what they had for breakfast. I want you to ask them anything. Sounds pretty easy, right? Well, why not stop there? Let's keep going. So after the ceremony, I want you guys to go home and ask 5 loved ones or friends and ask them how their day was. This simple check-in expresses the needed love and compassion for one another. And this simple check-in could simply save a life. Thank you for all your service, and happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, Joseph, for serving and continuing to serve our country and community. We are extremely proud to count you among our university students and deeply, deeply appreciate your dedication to the well-being of all veterans. Thank you. Our second speaker is someone I know very well personally. My friend and my colleague, Dr. Georgina Dodge. We have the opportunity to serve together as vice presidents on President Pine's cabinet. And I will tell you in no uncertain terms, she is a human who's deeply committed to making this campus and this country more humane and just. She will be representing our veteran staff. She's done some amazing things in her lifetime, and not just her work here. Dr. Georgina Dodge became the inaugural Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion at the University of Maryland in 2019, after serving in similar university roles for more than 2 decades. Prior to her career in higher education, she enlisted in the United States Navy for 6 years as an electronics technician, where she specialized in the repair and maintenance of cryptographic and other communications equipment, radar, and meteorological gear. While she seldom tinkers with devices these days, she says, she certainly applies her knowledge of troubleshooting and systems analysis in her approaches to the complex issues that confront us as a nation grappling with a very troubled history. In addition, her childhood as an Air Force brat instilled discipline and resilience that have become hallmarks of her current leadership. She continues to serve the U.S. military as a member of the Advisory Committee on Minority Veterans for the Secretary of the Veterans Administration, and as a member of the Civic Leaders with the Air Force District of Washington. She also serves on the Student Veterans Steering Committee here at the University of Maryland. It is truly my joy and honor to welcome my friend and colleague, Dr. Georgina Dodge, to share her story.
Thank you, everyone. I am honored to share the stage with Joey, and I'm going to pick up a little bit where he left off. I actually want you to turn to the people around you and say hello. Ask them how they're doing. Wish them a good rest of the day. Wish them a good weekend. You've got 30 seconds. Go. I'm going to cut your time a little bit short here. Some of you may recognize this as the reversal of an old standard. Look to the left of you, look to the right of you. At the end of this experience, 2 of you will no longer be here. This was a refrain that I heard frequently in the military when I started boot camp, when I started any of my classes for electronics, and it also gets used in college classrooms. lives. And not only is this a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it also establishes the mindset and a culture of exclusion. And those of us who survive those cultures know that we can do better. We can choose to include rather than to push out. We don't need to replicate what we endured, but we can learn a lot from it. So I'm going to share with you some lessons that I gained from my military experiences that made me the leader that I am today. But first, I do want to state how humbled and honored I am to be here with all of you. I want to thank the chapel staff and Vice President Perillo, and I particularly want to thank Denise McHugh and all of you who worked to make this event possible. We recognize and we appreciate your labor. I want to thank my colleagues who are here, as well as my fellow veterans. You taking the time to support this event really means a lot to me, and it also supports our community building as Terrapins together. So while we're here to celebrate veterans, I also want to take just a moment to memorialize those lost, including service members who did not survive the battlefield to become veterans, and those who lost their lives for other reasons, including suicide. We hold them dear in our thoughts. I also want to make special mention of one of my heroes, Clifford Alexander Jr., who passed away in July of this year. Alexander served as the Secretary of the Army from 1977 to 81, the first African American to hold that position. Prior to that, he was the chairman of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission from 67 to 69. Alexander was born in Harlem. He attended Harvard, where he was the first African American elected president of the Student Council. And then he studied at Yale Law before becoming a district attorney in New York and eventually coming to Washington to serve in the Kennedy administration. While certainly not without its challenges, Clifford Alexander Jr.'s journey illustrates a traditional narrative of college success. But for me and for many of my fellow veterans here, college was not the first step, but came after the military. In fact, military service may have been the vehicle that provided access to higher education, either financially or otherwise. I enlisted in the U.S. Navy shortly after graduating from high school, following in the footsteps of my father, who served a 21-year enlistment in the Air Force. My father admired Alexander, but I never made the connection between Alexander's success and his educational background. As a first-generation college student, I didn't really know what college was. It just wasn't a topic of conversation in our house. My father stressed the importance of education, but that was primarily in order to make us kids study and do our homework. He never really articulated what education was other than a means to somehow get ahead. But growing up as an Air Force brat, and yes, brat is a term that we military kids proudly embrace, provided me with access to a stellar K-12 education through Department of Defense schools when we were stationed overseas, which was most of the time. The staff at those schools included American civilians as well as teachers from the countries where we were located, resulting in a multicultural experience. And attending schools with kids from all over the world provided us with multiple other perspectives to learn from. I mentioned that we were stationed overseas most of the time, and this was intentional on my father's part. As a black man who fled the South and landed on the mean streets of Philly, my father quickly realized that the racism he confronted in other countries was very different from the racism he faced in the United States. As a serviceman abroad, he was part of a compact community in which he played a pivotal role, leading to greater acceptance within that community. There was also a shared mission, language, and culture that separated servicemen from the country surrounding them and led to internal cohesion. But my father was also intentional about actively engaging with every country that we lived in. And as a result, I benefited from interacting constantly with local communities, taking part in customs and rituals, learning languages and cultural mores, and making friends from every walk of life. This led me to respect and appreciate human differences. And from my father's example, I learned that sometimes you need to step out of your immediate community in order to fulfill different needs. From a young age, I saw ways in which my father was sometimes treated differently. And while not understanding exactly what was happening and why, I did know unfairness when it occurred. I do not want us to pretend that racism does not exist in the military. We all know better. Of course, I also experienced racism in the military, as well as blatant misogyny. But I also experienced deep relationships that enabled me to address bigotry by meeting people where they were. This has become the hallmark of how I approach processes of inclusion. Working with people from all over the world while in the military showed me that expecting people to know what I thought they should know was an incredible waste of energy. Instead, I learned to accept what was presented to me and to move forward from there. The ability to accept people with compassion and grace is an underrated aspect of military experience. There's a tendency to focus on the so-called warrior skills, the physical prowess, the courage, the discipline, the endurance, all of which are important. But compassion provides the capacity to lead with equity and inclusion. And because stepping into leadership could happen in unexpected ways and at unexpected moments, I've found that success came from the ability to include everyone on a team. When I was stationed in Japan, I was responsible for maintaining the electronic equipment that was used to send encoded top-secret messages all over the world. 3 of those machines were loaned by the US military to the Japanese military. But although the soldiers could use them to relay messages that were concurrent with our own and in congruence with American troops, they were not able to access the insides of the machines, which were considered top secret. The electronics, the internal workings, the coding devices. I actually held the keys to the machine, which had to be kept in a secure place. So when I arrived on the base, during my first visit to the Japanese military facility to meet with the troops there, I immediately sensed their resentment because of the constraints that they were working under. They felt distrusted and they felt dishonored. So during my ongoing meetings with them, I explained to them how the equipment worked. I mean, to the extent that I was able, of course. I talked with them about the types of maintenance that I was performing on the machines. I explained to them, how they could most effectively utilize them. I also introduced them to the other electronic techs who worked in my shop. And we eventually ended up inviting them over for a barbecue, and they reciprocated by treating us to an incredibly sumptuous Japanese meal. And this relationship became the basis for other shared projects that we generated over time. Compassion is what we need more of in the world right now to bridge divides and to heal the many hurts that plague us. I shared with you a lot of my father's experiences because they impact and parallel my own, and I'm sure that some of my memories may resonate with the other brats who are here today. But I also want to underscore the importance of intergenerational knowledge and experience that gets transmitted. There's an old saying in DEI work, diversity, equity, and inclusion work, The pain that doesn't get transformed gets transmitted. We have students and employees coming to our campus who may have been exposed to practices that harm them. And if we want to stop the ongoing cycle of harm, we need to facilitate transformation. Veterans are uniquely positioned to do this work. We have had to transform ourselves as we've moved around multiple roles and even identities. We've supported one another as we've navigated painful passages. We've been a part of critical missions that were so much larger than we are, and we know the power of inclusion to getting the work done. I celebrate the veterans on our campus who are making Maryland a more inclusive place, and I celebrate those who support them. Thank you all for being here today, and I hope that you have a restful, sun-filled, and great weekend, and be thinking of ways in which you can work your inclusion muscles. Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, Vice President Dodge, for sharing with us your wisdom and your compelling personal story, and for lifting up your father and one of your heroes. We really are grateful for your wonderful and meaningful contributions to the important mission of diversity, equity, and inclusion on our campus and around this country. To those veterans who have served in the past and are now University of Maryland students, faculty, and staff, or alumni, we really are very grateful for the rich lives and points of view that you share with us. To those of you currently in the military, you represent everyday reminders to your fellow Terps of the duty, dedication, and discipline you carry. You bring important life experiences and perspectives to the entire university campus, as named by Dr. Dodge. Let us together give another round of applause to both of our speakers today, as well as all of the veteran and military personnel associated with the University of Maryland. We honor. And now we move to the remembering portion of our Veterans Day service. I ask Senior Jordan Cray to come forward. He represents the Humble Walk Lutheran Campus Ministry. Jordan will light the honor candle and help us remember all UMD veterans, including those who are no longer with us.
We offer abundant thanks for University of Maryland community members, alumni, and staff who have served our nation in the past. Also, we honor UMD community members who currently are serving in the armed forces, the Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Navy, the Space Force, and the Reserves. As we light this candle, we pay tribute to the UMD men and women defending our freedoms around the world, currently and in the past. These individuals hold dear the red, white, and blue in our nation's flag, and they also hold dear other colors associated with the University of Maryland: red, gold, white, and black. In this very chapel today are men and women who have served, are presently serving, or intend to serve in the military. Let us now take a moment to turn to a nearby neighbor in your pew and talk to that individual about their service or intended service in the armed forces or the military service of a relative or family member or friend in their lives. You're welcome to share your own stories as well. All right, as we come back together, we extend our deepest gratitude to all of those who serve our country in times of peril and in times of peace. Let us be encouraged and inspired by their deep well of fortitude and courage. Thank you.
Thank you all for being in community with one another. It is an important part of our Maryland experience, and I'm glad you spent some time doing that. And thank you, Jordan. It was a pleasure to listen to you and get to know you a little bit more. As we continue to remember Maryland veterans, Manor Music will return to the stage for a reflective musical selection, The Mansions of the Lord. offering such a moving musical piece. Dr. Dodge, Joseph, and I were sitting up here in admiration and appreciation, just like I know everyone else was. It is time to remember Maryland veterans who have recently been lost. I call forward representatives from TERPS Vets, our student organization of veterans on our campus. Our students will be reading aloud the names of 122 UMD veteran alumni who have passed away. On the screen, you will see the names of these UMD veterans. Their service to the nation spans decades and covers periods of both war and peace. After the reading, I invite you to reflect on all of the Maryland veterans we have lost as UMD doctoral student Dylan Rye plays taps. TERP Vets.
We lost these 122 veterans, all University of Maryland alumni, in the time period of October 2021 to October 2022. Charles B. Adams, Jr., Marion T. Alexander, Gilbert W. Allen, Thomas L. Aslaskin, Charles J. Atos, Rudy K. Avadakian, Carl C. I. Jr., Richard Wayne Beckner, Gilbert L. Bond, Charles F. Reddy, Taubert C. Callis, Roger M. Carroll, Stephen R. Casola, Robert A. Citrano, William E. Clark, Richard Collins III, deceased 2017, Henry L. Colomb, Benton Delos Cook II, John L. Cowley, Fred G. Craven, Lloyd D. Krieger, Richard L. Cunningham, Robert D. Alfonso, William S. Davis, Ronald O. Dean, Robert F. Dreschler, Dennis M. Dugan, Charles C. Dulce, Franklin D. Eastham IV, Edward R. Etner Sr., Donald V. Fellers Jr., Robert P. Finzel, John E. Fissel Jr., Jack M. Frelinger, Thomas W. Fugate, Walter R. Gillette III, John C. Graybill Sr., John B. Gregg, Richard G. Harrison, Gerald C. Hennessy, Randall E. Hare.
Irving W. Herring, Jr., Charles G. Hoffman, Jr., Hugh J. Holloman, Wilfred H. Hundert, Alan C. Jackson, Arthur S. Jacobs, George D. Johnson, Thomas L. Johnson, Omar J. Jones III, Robert Monroe Jones, Jr., Walter F. Judge, Warren C. Kern, W. Earl Kidwell, Jr., Joseph L. Nee, Robert M. Criddle, Louis Christer, Harold J. Coomer, Jr. Vernon D. Kurtz. Abraham D. Lavender. Donald R. Lindsay. Lewis E. McConnell. Joseph K. McGready. Henry G. Michael. Robert G. Miller. Roger A. Milstry. Marvy D. Moore. Harry R. Munson, Jr. George A. Murphy. Norman W. Nightingale. Anthony Ostraker. Kenneth R. Parker. James M. Phillips. James U. Pearsall. Margaret L. Pierney. James C. Poore. James L. Price. Dorothy J. Pugmere. Daniel O. Pine. George A. Raby, Jr. Robert F. Redman and John D. Reed.
Alden C. Richards, Howard F. Roykoff III, Richard J. Royer, Francis A. Rufo, Sr., Richard J. Sansbury, Gary L. Sayer, Gary P. Shoppert, Earl F. Sedona, Sr., Lee M. Sherman, Ronald W. Shirley, Andrew J. Smith, John P. Smith, Robert F. Smith, George Solon, Howard K. Soper, Richard P. Sorrell, Jr., William T. Shack, Caney B. Steely, Jr., Henry W. Stintz, Brian D. Studdy, Victor A. Solon, Joseph R. Sungis, Cecil F. Sweeney, John R. Tarmalo, Richard O. Tosbald, Charles E. Taylor, Jr., Thomas E. Tomoff, John M. Turner, Ralph E. Watcher, David W. Walzer, Warren E. Walter, Roy H. Wampler, Ellensworth Worthby III, Thomas H. Wheatley, Nadine M. White, Robert C. Wiley, William H. Wiley, Judith A. Wilmberg, Mary L. Wilkinter, John T. Wood, Joseph F. Zerski.
Thank you, Dylan. And thank you, Terp vets. Today, we came together to honor the contributions and sacrifices of the University of Maryland veterans and service men and women. On behalf of the entire campus community, let me say again and underscore that we value your contributions to our community and our nation. In addition, we honor family members, for we know it is a familial commitment, and certainly celebrate those friends who have supported veterans in their journey. Let us all give a round of applause for all of our military and veterans, and for everyone who is a part of their lives. The formal part of our program will conclude with a benediction by staff member Dawn Savage, representing the Maryland Hillel Center for Jewish Life. The benediction will be followed by the playing of When the Battle is Over by bagpiper Thomas Cangelosi. Will the audience please rise as you are able? I ask for you to remain in place until the color guard retrieves the colors and begins the procession. Our audience from the front rows to the back rows will continue the procession. The ushers will help to direct the first rows. We hope that you will be able to join us for lunch set up on the Garden Chapel patio. Because of the inclement weather, we will be bringing the lunch indoors, so you can go out and get your lunch and then come inside and eat it. And during lunch today, you are also welcome to take time to walk the meditative labyrinth in honor of a veteran, past or present. A guide will be present to offer instruction as needed. And until 3 p.m. today, it's important for you to know that our Air Force, Army, and Navy ROTC units will be holding a vigil in front of the chapel in honor of our lost veterans. We really do thank all of you for taking part in today's Veterans Recognition Service. I know that I speak for all of us here at the university when I say we hold enormous gratitude for those who are called to serve in such profound and meaningful ways. Thank you.
This afternoon, I would like to share a prayer for our U.S. service members as well as a prayer for peace. Sovereign of the universe, we invoke your blessings upon the members of our American military forces, those brave service members whose courage and commitment to that for which this country stands protects us all. Whether by air, land, or sea, or wherever their orders take them, we ask, dear God, that they be protected within your sheltering presence. Shield them from harm and from pain, assuaging their loneliness and sustain their faith in the face of the formidable enemies that they confront on a daily basis. May all their efforts be crowned with victory, and the insurgents that we depend on their courage appreciate and understand the great difficulty of their work. Most of all, we pray for all soldiers is the ultimate prayer, that they would be privileged to return to the loving arms of their families and a grateful country safely, speedily, and in good health. Because of their courage, may we all be privileged to know and savor the blessings of true peace and security. May we see the day when war and bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the whole world. Then nation will not threaten nation, and the human family will not again know war. For all who live on earth shall realize we have not come into being to hate or to destroy. We have come in to be praised, to labor, and to love. Compassionate God, bless the leaders of all nations with the power of compassion. Let justice and righteousness flow like a mighty stream. Let God's peace fill the earth as water fills the sea. Ose shalom in Bromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu ve'akol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Who makes peace in all his high places, he shall make peace upon us, and together we can say, amen.